everybody. Welcome to this week's chat, shall we say. And thank you for joining me. And it's been a very big, a very large process we're going through at the moment. Everybody's going to be at home. We're here in Los Angeles. You know, we're kind of going to be locked down from what I hear, but I hear a lot of people are not doing that. I'm at the office. There's only me and the wall, and David is way back over there wearing his mask and his protective gear.
What are you talking about? You're in a coffee shop.
You know, and by the way, yeah, David's actually said I'm in the coffee shop. He's actually having coffee on the other end of this this photo here. So anyway, we've October was a great month for us. We had some great events that were you know, a success in many different places. Pittsburgh. In Pennsylvania, in Little Yellow Dog Village. We actually had a spot in Tampa, which is coming out soon. That video should be with me pretty soon. As well as the Maryland event, which was a academy event, which is probably the largest academy event we've had. And you know, every event we do, there's always some little thing that you have to adjust for because you're in a totally different location. You haven't got things set up, so it takes us a little bit of time to sort of put something together like the academy, because it's not just getting into the field and you know, putting everybody there. We have to make sure you're all social distance, and when you're running through the exercises, you're far apart, and you've got your masks on and all that stuff, which is a challenge. But you know, our online portion, as we've been doing for the past 6-7 months now. I don't know, what is it? March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Well, we've been here nearly 6-7 months, and thank you for the questions. The Film Fight Insights is coming along nicely. We've got some added stuff we're going to be doing, and I just want to mention that we might actually be doing an event, a live sword experience event at the end of October. Now, this is not going to be like any sword experience event you've ever seen before. It's going to be 20-minute segments that are going to be mixed with all different people and ideas and training, etc. So we're working on that. Give us a bit of time. Hopefully in another week or two, we should have the platform that we're going to use it on and the people that we're going to invite to the event. So I'm kind of excited about that, because it's a very different event that we're looking at. And if it works well, if you guys tell me that it's working well, we're going to expand it. We're going to make it a much larger type of event where we're going to introduce a whole bunch of new things. But we'll leave it at that for now. And anyway, Larry Schwartz actually said, hey Larry, how you doing? Hope you're well. What's happening with the new site? So the new site, we've gotten through the first design stages of it. We're in the process of populating it, getting the shopping cart plugins. You know, when you transfer from one webmaster to another, sometimes there's glitches like, oh, I don't have the password for this and I don't have that. So we're dealing with all little issues, but we're pretty close to being done with the site. We'll probably have another week or so left to really start utilizing all the functionality in it. It's a new style for the sword experience, a little bit more classy from what I see to it. There'll be a lot more stuff we can do with the site, because the thing with the old site was that we had so much traffic going on there now, and the things we wanted to accomplish, like all the online videos that we're trying to put out and the streaming that we're talking about, that the old site wouldn't handle it. So we had to redesign it. So that's why we're doing it. The shop, we have a bunch of new bokens. We have some new designs. We've also, you know, tried to be cost effective, bringing the price down for some of these bokens as well. We have a couple of new merchandise items. We're working on those t-shirts and those possibly sweatshirts. So we've got hats, we've got all different stuff, pop sockets and towels, and you know, we've got a whole bunch of new things that are going to be coming out. As well as we're going to try to be bringing back some videos that you guys can actually look at, and also have an auction on the site, and have so many different things that you know, it will take time to actually populate it. But the first thing we're going to get is the site, because you guys have got Thanksgiving coming up soon. Hopefully we can get it done just after Thanksgiving. So if you want to give any Christmas presents to people, you can do that. You can do it with, you know, giving them a gift card, or giving them a gift of a boken, or a training tool, or a cameo with me, which will be on there, which you can look at. So there's a bunch of things that people have requested, and we've tried to get it put through in motion. But some things are technically challenging, but we'll bring out one thing at a time. So next one, Claudia. Do I have any funny plane experiences during my train plane trips around the world? I've had some challenging plane trips around the world sometimes. You know, in this COVID world, a lot of the airlines are talking about, you know, keeping middle seats, but most of them are not doing it. American Airlines are not doing it. United Airlines are not doing it. Delta still have the middle seat open. Everybody has masks on there, and I remember the last time I was, you know, I'd specifically gotten to the airport after the event and got there relatively early. I'd looked at my ticket online. I looked at where I was supposed to be sitting, and somebody got in the seat next to me. Or it was blocked now. The seat next to me. I was like, well, I want to change it to some other place that doesn't have that blocking. So I looked at another seat. I checked another seat in, and then when I get on the flight, I sit down. I put all my stuff in. I put it down. I sit down, and all of a sudden, this young girl comes up with her mom and her other sister. Young girl. She's probably, you know, 20 years old. Can you please move to my seat, which is here by the aisle? I didn't really want to be by the aisle, but okay, I said, all right, fine, I'll get up. So I get up, took all my stuff, put all my stuff down. They sat down, all three of them sat down, so there wasn't going to be any middle seat there. But the one next to me was free. So I sat down, and as I sit down, I put all my stuff back down, I put it all there. I buckle in, I look up, and the guy goes, excuse me, I'm sitting in the seat next to you. At this point, I was like, really? Like, okay, so I pick all my stuff up, I put the guy sit back, I sat back down, I'm looking around going, where's there an empty seat? And luckily there was a row behind me that had two seats open, so literally as the plane doors closed, I jumped into that one. But it's rather frustrating. That's kind of the frustrating stuff that happens on planes. The other time I had an incident on a plane was with a United Airlines representative who was extremely rude. I didn't like it. But it wasn't him that really ticked me off. There was a guy behind me that told me to move my butt and called me a couple of names while I did it because he thought I was holding things up. And so I turned around and told him in no uncertain terms where to put it. And it almost ended up in a not a very pleasant situation, including having the airport security come in and tell me, excuse me, sir, we don't want any more trouble from you. And I'm like, excuse me, but I'm not doing it. It's the airline stewardess and all this, the airline steward, and this guy is doing all this. All I want to do is get home. Anyway, so I get off the plane and I'm seething because at this point I've had the security talk to me. I've had the steward who is now in the first class, is now the first class steward. He's called me a name. He's called me a liar. He's told me, and now he asked me whether I want food or drink. I'm like, no, I don't want anything from you. Thank you very much, because I don't know what you're going to put in it. Anyway, at this point, I get off the plane, and some guy comes up to me and he goes, I thought you were going to kick his butt, McLeod. So I was like, oh gosh, yeah, people were watching that. Okay, fine. So I've got to be careful sometimes what I do and say. But, you know, really, most of the time it's on a plane, get off the plane, do my work, get off the plane and go to work. So, you know, funny experiences, I think they're challenging experiences more than anything else. I've got another question from Claire Grace. What films have moved or inspired you as a director, and have they impacted your work in any way? You know, Chocolat was a film that I thought was great. I have a script that has a similar feel to that. It's a great movie with Johnny Depp and Dame. No, I was going to say Dame Edna Everage. No, that's not it. Judi Dench, Judi Dench in it, and has some great actors in it. And I just liked the way it was presented and the films, and I thought, oh, this is the type of movie I want to make. There's, you know, other movies that are action movies that I find extremely amazing, the way that the technicalities of them. And I'm actually talking about the next one. We're doing Pirates of the Caribbean series at the moment, so I'm looking at that series of films, and the amount of technical ability that you have to produce a film such as that. The mocap suits, which are the green suits that guys wear that look like you're coming out of space, compared to the period pieces, they're all mixed together, and then they on top of that they put all the weird fungi and horrible monster makeup and all that. The guy's normally just walking around in this suit, and so looking at that and the ability, the way the actual lenses were done, I found that when we were doing a lot of research on that to be fascinating. How you really need to know what you're doing when you do a film. I'm hoping to be directing a film next year. hoping we have some of the funding already in place, but I'm not going to talk about that because I'll jinx it. But you know, I think the genre of film, to me, I'm not really a fan of horror. I like romantic comedies or action pieces. That's kind of my area that I like. I do have a horror script that we were having another director going to be directing, but he's kind of disappeared on us right now. But the things I actually like doing are more that type of genre, and I think there are different directors that have inspired me through different films and depending on the genre. So I can't really name any of them. I mean, obviously you've got the Scorseses of the world who do amazing crime dramas, and that's really his niche. He does other stuff, of course, but there are and going onto sets these days, it's different to see some of the technical aspects that are involved in doing a film. I mean, it's so totally different than it was 20 years ago. The technical things that you've got on camera, the type of lenses that they're using, the cranes they're using, the playback monitors that have green screen. I mean, you have when the Mandalorian actually was a key example of this. I don't know if some of you have seen that. It's a Disney Channel Disney Plus channel piece, and I spoke to the key grip, and a key grip's a guy that deals with all the lightings and all the dollies and all that. He has that, and he said to me it was really amazing how this was shot, because it was shot most of it was shot in a semi-round room that had I think it was something like 15-20 cameras that were all set up around it. And the amazing thing about it was that you didn't actually now have to work on green screen. Before, like now, I'm sitting in front of a green screen so that we can key in a background, etc. But nowadays in the movies, they don't necessarily have to do that. They can do it in camera. In other words, they say, okay, I want the sun to change over here. So they've got the technician on the side now, able to change what it looks like if you change the sunrise from one area to another, and how the depth of field is done. So I mean, when you're looking at that, the amount of technical stuff that goes into actually creating something that large is quite impressive. And so films are shot very differently today. I mean, there are the ones that still have the old way of, I say old way, the more regular way of shooting things. But even there, you're still looking at now digital cameras. You're looking at iPhones, where you do videos with iPhones. You do a film with iPhone. You can do. There's so many different platforms. I think you really need somebody that knows what they're talking about as a DP, a director of photography, so that he can tell you, well, you know what, there's this new lens coming out. There's this new camera work feel. How about this idea? There's a director, you kind of give them a feel of what you want. That type of, I'm looking for this and this and this, and I want this. The pace of this has to be this type of shot. So then the DP says, well, let's try this. So there's stuff I've tried, as you can see on the Sword Experience. When we do them now, we do different stuff. We've got dolly shots, we've got drone shots, we've got different types of things. And so when I do that, I'm actually honing my skills as a director, and it's kind of fun to do. Jason Smith, what are the chances of an advanced Sword Experience event or retreat for Patreon members or SXP veterans? Okay, so that's coming. We are, the SXP veterans are one thing, level of expertise is another. And so there is a process we are working on to create a platform that will allow that to happen, which basically means not everybody can apply. It will be a select group of people who have been able to achieve certain things, katas or movements that are the entry level. So anybody that wants to enter will have two challenges to do before they're actually allowed to actually take part in this group. We are working on that. As I said, we have a lot of stuff working right now. This is one of the ideas we've got, and what we're looking at right now is the online platform first, to see how we deliver these shows and these Sword Experience events online, and then creating a select club of individuals who would be now looking at it much more of a disciplined type of routines rather than it's just an experience where you can just learn a couple of things and be done with it. So there's a couple of, but we've got to formulate that. So it'll take us another month or two to do that. But that is something we're considering, because I think that's something people have asked for, and the advanced ones obviously will make more sense when I'm able to have that many people that are advanced, and by doing this online thing I can see who those people are, where they are, and see where events can actually take us. So that's what we have in the works right now. Mark Powers, for productions pre-COVID, did any extras have fight experience? Are there martial arts, HEMA? Are these scenes halted for now? Productions pre-COVID, the ones we had pre-COVID were, there are live events still we have planned. The only difference between our live events that used to happen and the live events now is that I have to do them outside.
He's talking about like productions like movies and films.
Are they what?
Are the extras, do the extras have fight experience, or are they HEMA affiliated?
In the actual...
In like, say like Game of Thrones or something like that.
Oh, do Game of Thrones have that? Sorry, I thought you were talking about the sword experience. So do productions like Game of Thrones that have extras that have fight experience? Some of them do. Yeah, some of them do. They you know, I think you get, the minute you have a weapon in your hand, you get changed from extra to stunt player, because you're doing a piece of action. It's not just walking through a frame. So they do sometimes pick people like that, and they will have some extras doing that, or they will be stunt performers. But most of the time that comes from the stunt department, who have a list of people that can do small choreography in the way background. I mean, if you have a large battle sequence, for instance, you have, you know, some extras that do some fighting, but they are really stunt performers at that point. So the other extras are people running through the frame. And you know, when you look at something like Pirates of the Caribbean, when you have things exploding or crashing down, like the Kraken, when a Kraken split the ship in half and all the splinters and the mast came down, I mean, that's a lot of visual effects as somebody's walking through this mayhem, and you actually don't notice anything actually hitting them, which is an improbability. But anytime you have anything flying, anything that is dangerous of any sort, that's a stunt. So the extras really are people that are just in the background walking around. So if you do have sword experience, you would talk to stunt players, or you would send in your resume in and state, you know, this is what I have. And you would probably do it when you actually did a casting. If you have an extras casting, you can actually give the casting director the knowledge that you actually have the experience to use swords or weapons, or aqua diving, scuba diving, whatever it is you do. So they go, oh, that extra can do that, and maybe we'll bump them up, which means you get a bump up in price. Not much, but you do get a bump up in price. What else is there? Don't know. I'm actually enjoying this light breeze coming in from the window of the coffee shop at the moment. We've actually got Benoit Garnier says, how do I plan on organising the virtual SXP events with the time difference? Well, what we will do is we'll keep them in the mornings from the West Coast. So we'll start them probably at 9 a.m. and we'll have them for 3 or 4 hours for people on the opposite coasts. So that way it will be a reasonable time anywhere. It'll be at least in Europe, if we started at 9 o'clock, I think that's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So 3 or 4 hours, I think that allows people enough time in other time zones to actually make it. Now, we are also talking about taping these virtual performances, if we can do that. And this is, again, as I'm talking about the technical aspects of it, so that if you do miss it, you can actually then acquire it afterwards once the event is actually over. So we're looking at all the logistics of it, and time difference was one we'd already thought about, because you know, we have a lot of people in France, in Germany, Hungary, even Russia. So you know, but if we'd like people to go to bed, you know, earlier than 2 o'clock in the morning. So we will try and do these for like 9 a.m. in the morning, or maybe even early at some point, so that we can start bright and early on the West Coast. But maybe like we may even start at 8 o'clock, so that time it's only 11 a.m. on the West Coast, or 10 a.m. in Mountain Time, and in Europe at that point it's only or in England it'll be 3 o'clock, and and the rest of Europe will be 4 o'clock. So it gives people more time. But we'll be working on that, and we're definitely going to be talking about things that, or asking you things that you might want to see. So those things would be in a sword experience, and don't think of it as a sword experience. Think of it as a little bit of training, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of meditation, a little bit of different things. The variety of things that can happen when you do a sword fight. So it could be something historical that we were looking at, something that is weapons testing, weapons making, those types of things. So we're actually looking at expanding what we offer as an event that has you able to go from one room to the next depending on what you actually want to see. So in other words, if you want to watch the main stage, you can do. If you want to go over here and see what this person is doing over here, you can do that as well. So you can choose, much like a convention does in a sense, where you want to go, but you don't have the travel, you don't have the expenses of going anywhere. You just do it from your home. And we will be releasing the sword experience training tools pretty soon, so you'll actually be able to do it at home with the tool if you wish to do it that way. Or you can do it with a ruler or a spoon or whatever you want to do it with. We had in the Film Fight Insights, we actually had a wooden spoon like this that one of our pros was using as a humorous part of the Film Fight Insights. But as you can see, we have a variety of people. HEMA, we have reenactment groups, and so we're really looking at trying to bring in a lot of different information for you guys, so that there is a collection of things for you to look at, apart from the sword experience numbering system or the training or the exercise or any of that stuff, of the filming. We've got a whole bunch of new things we want to bring you, which I'm kind of excited about, but I'm not going to explain it yet because it's too early yet. We need to have another week or two before that happens. So maybe by the next the next live, I'll be able to tell you everything that's happening. But we're looking at this happening between the Christmas Day and the New Year, somewhere around the 27th, 26th, 27th perhaps, so that after you've filled yourselves with lots of turkey and cookies and all that stuff, you can now work off the training and do something interesting in between the time you then go and get drunk at New Year. You're going to do it at home now though, right? So those kind of what we're planning there. Now I have Michael Cheney. How many languages do I speak? Any examples? Ich spreche nicht Deutsch. Nicht so schön. It's not my language. I picked it up, so I was able to say, could I have the bill? Guten Tag. That's really. Then I have Italian. So Italian, se io parlo italiano posso parlare italiano tutti i giorni perché sono metà italiano. E così la gente mi capisce quando vado in Italia a fare questi eventi. Did you get that? Okay, maybe you didn't. But what I was saying was I speak Italian, and obviously it's easy for me to speak Italian when I go to events in Italy so that everybody can understand I can say. Then there's going to England. Now that's different because I have to put on all my different accents depending on what part of the country I'm going to. But language-wise, si je vais en France, je vis en France pendant beaucoup d'années, et comme ça je peux parler en français aussi, et j'aime bien parler le français parce que c'est en langue latin, que c'est comme très proche du italien, and that's French, because French is now used in a lot of different places, and I also speak a little bit of Spanish. I can get by Spanish because I cheat. It's very similar to Italian. So, donde vas, dove vai, so this is the same thing. Where are you going? You know, quando andiamo. You know, there's different words in Italian that are very similar. So if I start speaking, se hablo en español, es muy similar que l'italiano, and but in different areas from where you are from, it's a different Spanish. It's like Portuguese. Can't speak Portuguese, but when I went to Brazil, I had a Brazilian girlfriend at one point down in São Paulo, beautiful area outside of São Paulo. We actually went to a place called Bahia, which was fantastic. If you ever have a chance to go to Brazil, go to Bahia. It's beautiful. But the Brazilian there is actually closer to Italian. I could understand some of the stuff they were saying in Brazil, but going to Spain, going to Portugal, I couldn't understand a thing. It's a totally different type of Portuguese. So the same thing applies to the Spanish. Spanish is different in different places that you go to. So I can sometimes get by with it, and sometimes it's a little harder, but it's a lot easier than not speaking it at all. So, I again, and the same thing with Romanian. Romanian is actually, or Hungarian, Hodvaj, which is how are you in Hungarian, and I can speak a couple of words here and there in Hungarian. The reason why I never learned Hungarian was I never really thought I was going to spend so much time there. So I do pick up languages when I go to shoot at different places, but I kept leaving there. I was always speaking English with my wife and my kids and the people around me. So picking up Hungarian, I didn't need to pick it up. So I can get by with a couple of words and phrases here and there, but it's not very, it's not my strength, but I can kind of understand a couple of times what people are saying. Romanian, again, same thing. In Romania is a Latin-based language. It's very similar to Italian. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I forgot it now. But it's very similar. That's Spanish, 7, 8. But they're very similar in the sound, and I don't know whether it's because the Romans populated Romania. Go figure. But the Romanian, there is a lot of things that are very similar. Universidad. There's a different words that are very, very similar in both languages. So when I was in Romania, I could actually pick up a couple of things and understand things pretty quickly. And my Russian, forget it. I've been there 8 times. I could count a couple of times in Russian, but that's about it. Spasiba, all these types of things, thank you, which you need to talk to. You need to learn when you actually go to different countries. Okay, let's move on. Sean Dempsey, any plans for Sword Experience in 2021 as of now? Yes, there are 5 events that we have planned. They will be on the new sites. These are all convention sites to start with, because right now we're working on we probably won't have any events until, I would say, February. It's probably going to be the time, early February, when we're looking at possibly doing something. But if we do announce that, it won't be until December that we will, and then we'll be announcing events all the way through the beginning of 2021 to then start making up some of the places we've got. We have a lot of requests from different places we're talking to people with. We have, as I said, we have 5 conventions right now that already have reached out to us. Some of them were cancelled from last year, so they have still expressed interest in doing it. Who knows what the climate will be like when we do that. But the Sword Experience events we do, I do want to do another retreat. I'm going to see if we can go back to Ireland again this year. I will be looking at doing another type of retreat as well. And there's lots of plans to expand what we've already got. I was on the way. I was going to plan this year. I was planning on doing about 27 events this past year. Next year, I'd like to do the same thing with the events we already have planned, plus the other ones that we have coming up. We'd like to be able to deliver some good events. We still have the East Coast that we're talking about. New York, we've been talking about. Boston, we've been talking about. About going possibly back to Florida. There's a whole nother thing we're possibly looking at for Florida. So, and then coming to the West Coast later in the year when it starts getting a little bit nicer, like Seattle, Vancouver. We've talked about Toronto at some point, but again, we're going to look at that. So there's different places that we've looked at that I didn't think of, and we're going back to places we've been. I'd like to go back to Chicago as well this year. So to do an academy event or an elite event. So there's a bunch of places. We already have contacts. Right now, as I said, in the next 2-3 weeks, we're going to be working on this online platform, and then we'll start looking at those dates and releasing some ideas. And if you guys have any ideas, again, please let us know. And please, if you have any suggestions of people we should contact or people that would help us in those areas, because it's a lot easier to have somebody on the ground. I mean, when we did our Maryland event, we had fantastic help on the ground to put an academy together, because there were enough people there from non-sword experience members and sword experience members to make it a really great event for people to learn as much as they could, as well as have one-on-one time and make it a profitable event for the sword experience. Because if you look at this year, we've only done 4 events in about 7 months. That's, you know, that's pretty hard for us to when normally we're doing 20 plus a year, 22, 23, 24, 25. I think we've done at some point in a year. So we really have not done many last year. Last year, I think the total events we had was 7, I think, in total. So maybe even 6, which is any small business. So be patient, and we'll bring them as soon as we can. Priscilla Manriquez, how can Musketeers continue to help in finding locations for future live events? Musketeers, you guys are great, and we've been trying to expand upon our connection between the Musketeers, between the online fan groups, between the people on my Facebook page. We've got more interaction we're trying to do with that. Now, to do live, any live events we do have to have two things. One, have enough interest in that area to go there. Texas, we have a lot of interest. So Texas, I know Priscilla, you're in Texas. So somewhere in Texas would be of interest, but an exterior place or a martial art studio, academy that would want to do a training event with the sword experience in an academy setting rather than an elite setting. That's another thing. So you really want to look at the location. Is it big enough? And it has to be outside for now, because we're not anywhere near having COVID finished. And I've seen some great spaces in LA that I was wanting to do something in Los Angeles, but it's indoors. It's 7,000 square feet, but still it's indoors. So I can't do that. Same thing applies in other places. I do not want to do anything indoors for now, for at least the first half of next year. So if we're looking towards September, October, November, then probably indoors would be a little bit more interesting. But again, if we're doing an elite, it'd be different between doing an elite to an academy event or a convention event. Excuse me. The criteria is indoor. It's going to be about 5,000 square foot at least, and bathroom access, internet access, and interesting. So if there's a park nearby and a great location that we can do the finale in for an elite event, that would be the choice. If it's an indoor place, anything that is big enough for us to run the cone areas, if you've seen, it should be a decent floor space, like a large basketball court or something of that nature that we can do inside. Although I would prefer to have some scenic thing like an empty warehouse or something of that nature that would be good to do an academy event, but you've also got to think of what the flooring's like. So there's a couple of different factors that need to be taken into consideration for that. So next question that David's run up very quickly is from Benoit Garnier. What's in store for December training? Keep on perfecting the kata. Well, December training. The kata is not finished. We will be going into... when you have a kata, what you have to understand about it is that the kata itself is a series of movements. When you look at it, you're looking at the movement in front of you, that movement. But you're not looking at this movement. So there might be something where this changes. So what we're going to explore with the kata in December is, now having had a structure, I want to continue working on that structure and seeing where we can take it, changing levels or changing directions, and see what you can do with it in that particular vein. So I'm looking at that next week. I'll be looking at putting some of those things together. If I look at it and say we can't do a month on that, there's not enough on that, we will continue with the kata on the side, and then we'll add more to it. But the important thing is to make sure that the things that I see, what really helps me is watching what you guys do, because really some of the things that happened in November came from watching your submissions for the challenges from October. So I would notice that, and the main thing I noticed was this wrist issue and pushing things further out. So if you notice, in November we worked a lot on the wrist motions and trying to loosen up these wrists, as well as, you know, and then we'll get into stretching the arms and the backs and the shoulders so that you don't get injured. So I'm excited to see what happens this next session that you submit, which is coming up next week. And at that point, I will have a better idea as to what levels you're at and see whether what I've planned for December works or whether I have to add something to it. So it's to me, it's a feedback as to what you guys are doing. And the training is going to change. You know, we have done a lot of things in the past. I'm going to bring some more stuff back because, you know, bringing things back and learning things as we go is very helpful, because sometimes I watch the movements and they're not quite there yet. So you're not going to move on to something if I don't believe that you've able to finalize this kata. So we will explore how this kata can work. And sometimes what ends up happening is when you explore something like this, you learn that kata even better, because now you're fluid and watching things happen because you're not just so concentrated on one movement. So by utilizing the let's say we're doing this, I'm going to look at that action because I've just stopped him here rather than just looking at this front action, this area. So there is an exploratory phase to now look at as to what the movements are doing based on how short or how long they are, if that makes sense to some of you. In other words, this is a long movement, this is a short movement. So we're going to explore some of those things in this kata, because you really need to know this kata and perform it really well before we can move on to the next. Claire Grace, what do I find are the main drawbacks of being famous? I'm not famous. I'm not famous. I used to be famous. All right, so I'm well known, famous. When you are currently famous, the drawbacks are going out, everybody watching you, not being able to do certain things in public, you know, the people constantly coming up to you all the time asking for your autograph or your picture. There are certain things when you're famous and you're really famous that is very restrictive, and that's why a lot of stars have their entourage around them to create a block. I've never really sort of had that in the past few years. You know, people recognize me all the time, but it's not the same as being mobbed in St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome, or on the streets of Paris, or when Highlander was actually airing at the time. It's a different level of notoriety now. So I think some of the advantage of being famous is that you do get preferential treatment in some places. I remember in France, when we were doing the series, I was always known by the bouncers on the doors because it was an action show, and those are the boys that would watch it. So I got friendly with a lot of the bouncers in clubs that we used to go to, and there was one guy, I remember, he was a big boy, very big African American, or French African doorman, who actually came on to do one of the shows, and but he was there one time, and we got there and the place was packed. And what he ended up doing is he went over to a table, got the people off the table, and allowed me to sit down at the table with my friends. I was like, okay, well, that's kind of, I guess, what the ability of being known, it has its advantages for. And of course, the other things, such as people want to send you their products for you to use. I tend to have not done a lot of that because I don't want to cheapen me selling things all the time. If I believe in something, then I'll do it. And that's the other added advantage. The other thing about being famous is that you do get people or advertisers wanting to use you because of what you've done here. Now you're making money over there. And a lot of the time when you do conventions, for instance, some actors make more money doing conventions than they do actually filming, because the amount of fans that are out there are paying a lot of money for them to turn up at places, and they can earn a very good living doing that. And so there are other avenues that being famous allows you to benefit from. The drawbacks, as I said before, are constantly being, hello, how are you? Can I take a photo? Can I take a photo? And I remember one actress, a friend of mine, who was well known as well, and we were walking through an airport one time, and these guys, they do it fairly often still. They will somehow, they can't do it as much now, but they probably can't do it at all now, but they were able to get through security, and where the planes come in, not through, after security, they were standing there with photos of her, for instance, like, could you sign this? So what they've done is they know you're coming in for a convention, they're avoiding the convention fees and all the crash of the convention, and they want to come in and get you to sign it for free. They're knowing that factor, and she got really upset. She was like, get out of here, did you doing, did it? And I pulled her away and I said, look, you have to understand something. We're living in the age of social media. And this wasn't now, this was probably 10 years ago. And I said, we're living in the world of social media. Whatever you say and do is going to be captured on camera. It's going to be something else. Somebody's going to tweet about you. Just say, I'm sorry, I can't do it, and just move on. And that's it. You don't have to get upset with these people. And she said to me recently, she said, I've always remembered what you said about that, because, you know, in the back of my mind now, I'm thinking, okay, I've got to get out of this situation easy. Usually, as I said, you have an agent or somebody with you that says, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that right now, which means we're not the bad guys saying, no, we can't. And sometimes it's not because we can't, it's when we're moving somewhere else. We don't want to be the rude ones saying, okay, I can't do this right now, I've got to go on somewhere else, because then it's us that are the ones that are the bad people. So being gracious to everybody as possible doesn't take, it takes as much time as it does barking at somebody. In fact, it probably takes more time to bark at them because you're ticked off and you want to stay there, and then you end up being in a bad mood for the next hour because somebody's tried to take advantage of you. So David now says, Jason Smith, is there any is this sort of experience choreography I've wanted to do but haven't had the chance yet? Yeah, I mean, you know, people who ask me about the reverse motions, and we're going to look at that at it'll be the next thing possibly we'll be looking at. Or what I might even try to do is do this kata backwards. You ever done that? That makes it even more challenging. So that's another way to really understand a bunch of movements, and there is so much you can bring off of. As I said, this first kata that we created in the sword experience was from the 12 movements. There's every movement in there except for a long thrust, I believe it is. So we've done the 7 block, the 10 block, the 10 attack, 7 attack, 9, 12. We haven't done the 12 one way, we did it only one direction. So there's so much you can take off of 12 movements. If you multiply that by exponentially, you've got hundreds of moves you can do back to back. So the one thing we've not looked at is the reverse, and why the reverse would happen, and how and when you should use it. So I use the reverse in certain situations. I think I could have used it to explain it better, knowing really now more about why that reverse action and what the strength of utilizing reverse does, and when you should use it. I would possibly have tried to do that when I did the show, but right then it was more for, okay, this is a different look, I want to try this look and see what happens to it. So we'll look at that. So that's one of the other things that we'll be focusing on as well. David has another one for me. Sue Hassler, do you find it difficult to show your kids the real world while keeping them protected from the real world? No, I don't have any problem with that. You know, there's age-appropriate content that you can give them. The other day, I took my kids to hand out some bags for the homeless, and not a couple, just 2 or 3 bags, because we had them in the car. And I wanted to make sure that, and they would ask questions at that point. Why is that person doing that? What, you know, he wasn't thankful, or she wasn't doing this, or why are they living there, or what is it? And so now you get to understand what it is. There's certain things I wouldn't explain to them because they're too young. I mean, my son's 8, my daughter's 10. She's beginning to get that tween, so she's kind of understanding things a lot better. So there'll be more to teach her. So protecting them from the real world, all you can do is give the information in stages, and I think the protection has to come from them. You can give them, the way you protect your children is giving them the tools, and by that I mean the information to handle the things that come to them. Now, there are going to be things that they're not going to expect, and that's when you have to have an open dialogue, or enough of an open dialogue with your children so that they don't feel that you're going to have an opinion as to what they did. So by that I mean, now when they're 7, 8, 9 years old is the time when you don't have an opinion on, oh, I went out with such and such. Well, don't do that because this is happening. Or I went and did this. Well, you should have done that because blah, blah, blah. Because if you do that now, what ends up happening by the time they're 13, 14, 15, 16, and there are much more drastic issues to take care of, like drugs and peer pressure and all those types of things that they're going to be put through, they won't feel comfortable coming to you because they think you're going to have an opinion as to what their actions have been. I would much rather not say anything, or just say, well, I think, if you want to look at it, do it this way maybe, or what do you think of that? So that we can have a dialogue about it, and then hopefully later on have a much better connection with them, so that I won't be there to protect them at that point. They have to protect themselves. So my job here is to give them tools to understand things in the world that is age appropriate. So gradually we add things every year that is a little bit more appropriate for their age. Darren Hayes, hello Darren from Ireland. How has the sword experience changed my approach to training and my technique? It's really interesting. An interesting comment. That the approach it's given me is. I was talking with Mark Makita. Some of you may know Mark. Mark is also going to be working with me on this new online platform. I have some really great professionals going to be working with me on it. But Mark. I said to Mark just recently, about a week ago, I said, I've found that me teaching now has opened my eyes to the way things should be done or not done, and I can spot things a lot easier now, which I can then adjust in my own techniques or katas that I do. And the technique of teaching people has grown for me. Sometimes I could get frustrated with somebody not getting something, if I've told them it 15, 20 times, but I can't get frustrated. And, there have been times when the frustration is not with them, it's with having 50 people in the room and having to deal with a bunch of other things as well. Because, when the sword experience first started, we were really kind of loners. I mean, the idea hasn't evolved too much more in the amount of people we bring in. Sometimes when we have more than like 20 or 30 people, we start bringing extra trainers in, extra assistants now, because I realize that I can't do that, because I have to focus on the people's training and not focus on some of the other issues that are happening around the training itself. Somebody else has to deal with that. So obviously we have Bev Shahara that comes to a lot of our events. She actually helps out, but then we get people at different places. Now, the training itself, that's actually helped me. The funny thing is, sometimes when I put the stuff together and I look at what is necessary for the sword experience training online, I find things I hadn't even looked at before. Proprioception is a key one of that, which we're going to bring back again. We're going to do that again, because I think proprioceptors, for those of you that don't know proprioceptors, they're basically, it's your motor mechanics. So if you're doing this motion like this, your brain tells you you need to move your arm up like this, and then the rest of your motions, it's triggering everything so that it's in a smooth motion. When we're babies, the motions happen like this because our brain to our motor functions haven't connected yet. And as we get older, in our teens and our 20s, those motor functions are all connected and firing off. It gives us a balance. It gives us the ability to move from one minute to another, to be able to pick up something easily. As we get older, some of those things change. So working on proprioceptors as you get older, as well as when you're younger, is also important, because your balance, you might not think about it, because the gyroscopes that run in your system are not now working like this. They're kind of now all like this, because as time goes on, the cup has gotten fuller, and the whole thing it's got to deal with has gotten out of whack. So now you have to work on things to bring that gyro back into its own motion. So some of the proprioception stuff really helps with the movement from one to the next. Looking at way people move is, and it's funny because I actually was sitting with Mark, again, it was the day I was with Mark Makita, and I saw a woman walking, and I watched the way she was walking, and all her energy was planting to the ground. And I said, well, look at the way she's walking, Mark. She's got all her energy coming down in this action. And he said, yeah, you notice that more now because you're an instructor, because you notice people's movements and you can kind of pinpoint it. And so I kind of found that fascinating. So it has changed a lot of things in what I do. And I think any of the forms I'll go back to, some of my old forms, will probably affect some of the things I do because I'm going to be exploring them a little better. And the next question is Deborah Smith. Hello, Deborah. How are you? Now that Seven's been with the family for a while, how has everyone adjusted to him? Everybody adjusted to Seven. He is a joy. That's child's little Sevy Evie, we call him. And somebody actually asked me why was he called Seven. The reason why he was called Seven was he was born. The name Seven was chosen before he was born, but it was along with another 3, 5 names that we had. The other names, I truly believe, and we've done this with all our kids, that the name fits the personality that comes out. And there really is a different personality when a child is born. You can tell it within, a few hours. There's a certain way that they're doing things, and you kind of go, yeah, that kind of fits them. And that's what we did with Seven. We said, well, this is the name we think we should have. We actually had a week to think about it because he was actually in the ICU for 2 weeks. So we had probably more about a week and a half to really name him and really look at him as to what he was doing. And what happened was we had these 2 or 3 names, and we realized he was born on the 7th semester. He was 7 pounds when he came out. We didn't know this, but he was born in room number 7. He was lucky because his umbilical cord was in a knot when he came out, so the number 7 represents luck. So his name was really pretty much chosen for him from the get-go, and we really didn't have anything to do with it. So the other kids, I was a little so-so about them. I knew my son was all gung-ho. Yeah, it's another brother. It's a great another brother. My daughter was like, okay, so how's this going to affect my life? And so I was like, but she has been amazing. She loves, but it's a different relationship between the two. You can already see it. Seven is drawn to Royce's mischievousness. He loves Royce when Royce goes Rah! And scares him, and he laughs. Whereas Angelise is more like nurturing. He'll fall asleep on her shoulder, and it's so cute. It's just so amazing. And what's great, especially at this stage in my life, is to have a child that young and get the things you didn't think you would get anymore. And I'll give you for instance, the other night, I put him to bed every night. I milk him, put him to bed so that he has some milk and my wife can have some time off. So every night I put him to bed. So about an hour and a half, sometimes it takes me an hour, sometimes half an hour, depending on what it is. If he goes to bed quickly, pretty much he'll get up in the middle, another hour or 2 later, screaming, needs more the rest of the milk. And then he'll do it again. Well, the other night I thought, okay, now's the time when we want to start getting him used to being there and he can go back to sleep. So I was trying to get him back to sleep. So he was grouchy, he was kicking it from one side to the other, and he sleeps like this, right, on his front. We keep putting him on his side, he goes onto his front, he wants to stay like this. So he's on his back front like this. I'm trying to calm him down. No, he doesn't want that. He's coming back, and then he, this was for about 4 or 5 minutes. I'm putting him back down, I'm calming him down, he goes back up again, I'm putting him back down. Finally he's like, no, and he gets up to the top of the crib, and he just puts his arms around me and just holds me, and I just held him. And that moment of holding him, just for literally about 30 seconds, he just held on to me, was one of the best feelings that you can ever have. So it's the process of him growing up and watching the other 2 siblings interact with him differently is amazing. So they're coming along great so far. The only thing is, between them, they've got to stop fighting so that Seven doesn't see that's the norm. Right, well, there's another challenge. Rick Thomas, hi Rick. Are any of your kids watching Highlander, or have they, or any of my other roles? Funnily enough, my son's like, Highlander, I want to watch Highlander. And I'm doing the behind the scenes talks on Patreon, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I'll show him the first episode. And the first thing I see is me in bed with Alexandra Vandernoot. I'm like, no, that's not exactly what I want to show my 8-year-old at the moment. Why are you doing this? What does no? It's just, so I'm like, not yet. I might try and find, but he's been dying to see it, and he's seen little pieces of it, and he's seen the opening, and he's seen different things. But there is an age appropriateness to things, and so my daughter's kind of like, I prefer ballet and skating and tennis. You know, what's this sword thing, Highlander? You know, so that's a different question. She'll watch it eventually, but it might not be her thing. Then again, it might be. I don't know, but eventually we'll show it to them. But yet I haven't showed them other roles. Again, a lot of the roles I've done, I mean, The Breed or Apocalypse Now, a lot of those things were the Immortal Adventures of Captain Drake. Actually, I could show them that one. I could show them that's pretty harmless. There's a couple of them that I would probably try and do, but I don't really show. You know, my kids are my kids. Like, that's my work. So I don't think about that. It's like watching a program or filming it. Once I've done it, I watch it once. I don't watch it again. I haven't watched some of these episodes in 20 years. You know, so watching them again, it brings back memories. So to me, I'm looking forward to doing more of them. We've got a couple more already in the can, but you know, it's kind of fun going, oh yes, I remember that. In that moment, this was happening, and I remember this happened, and you know, as I said, I'm not going to divulge all the secrets, but well, some of my the ones I can are on these reviews I'm doing. Priscilla says, is there a date for the first virtual event yet? As I said, it will be at the end of December, between Christmas and the New Year, somewhere around the 26th, 27th. That's kind of what we're looking for. And this virtual event, as I said, will be a test to see how it goes. Did you like it? Did you like the format? We are thinking of now bringing this in. Would you like to see that? Because at least at that point, the idea is to bring not just people that want to do swords, but to bring a whole community together to look at different things, such as the spirituality behind certain things, the physical things that happen when you do a sword strike or a bullet strike, ancient weapons. There's so many different things we want to bring, because we wanted to bring it as an action genre rather than just a sword experience event. But we will have some sword experience event pieces that we use in the live events on this virtual event that we'll be putting out. Dave is writing furiously right now because he can't write fast enough for me to actually get the next question. Was it hard learning to play human for Tracker? Was it hard to learn to play human for Tracker? What does that mean exactly? I mean, like I was I see, for Tracker. I was thinking of AE. The thing about Tracker I made a mistake on was keeping Cole an alien for too long. And the reason I did that was because we had an issue with not knowing the Bible well enough and not knowing what was happening. So I was really handling what was going on with the development of the show, because I didn't want the show to turn into the bad guy of the week, which was what Highlander started doing, what other shows had done before, and that basically kills them. You need to learn about the people in the event itself and have those relationships. So I wanted that to be the stigma. Who are these people? Where do they come from? How do they react with each other? But you know, there was some disconnect in what we were trying to put out, and so I made the mistake of trying to explain it through his fish out of water. But it was probably, I would say I probably did it for about 3 or 4 episodes too long to do that. Did it affect the ratings of the show? I don't think so, because we were in that area. This, what they call the syndicated market, was when the market changed. Syndicated market is when it went out to all these different places. Well, the syndicated market died at the beginning of the 2000s, and so, or the end of the 1990s. So there wasn't as much of an audience, and the online, the cable networks hadn't gotten there yet. It was that lull period that was there, that we couldn't really, you know, get to those audiences. So I think it would have gone anyway, but we already knew by show, I think it was at 14, that we were not going any further. So, you know, everybody's energy went down toward the end of it from different areas. But I was intent that it wasn't going to die, but for lack of trying at the end of it. Even though the very last episode, I had 3 days to shoot 27 pages of dialogue and an action sequence. So it was, you know, we had 3 days to shoot the entire episode. Sue Hassler, should the merch be ready in time for Christmas. Yes, we're hoping the merchandise is ready. We have it. We don't have the t-shirts as yet. We're working on those right now. But the old t-shirts we have, the merchandise, the bokens, all that stuff, we are hoping to be able to launch that in the next 2 weeks. So we will have time to ship things if we get those orders in quick enough. We're going to tell our suppliers that are doing bokens, for instance, that we will be able to get that ready in time for Christmas. If there's another way to do it, for instance, giving somebody a gift card that will allow them to have a boken. For instance, if a boken is X amount, we might do something of that nature so that you can buy the gift card and give the gift card to somebody, which will get to you much quicker, that allows them the code on the back we might do where we actually give you a certain discount to get the boken after Christmas, and so that you're not there for the rush. But yes, we are trying to get things out for Christmas, photos that we've not done before, different things that haven't been on our store before. We're really working on expanding that, but we're expanding a lot of things, and this COVID event has really sort of made us look into a different direction, especially trying to create a new virtual online platform for the sword experience, which just doesn't happen overnight. It's not like me just sitting here doing this. It's a whole bunch of other things, as you've already seen. We're trying to bring new things to you so that they are exciting and you're constantly engaged by what we're doing and constantly changing it up. And any information or things of feedback that you can give us is great, because that way we can tailor the platform to what people are really wanting to see. I think we're last question, Brad Boland. If we do an online event, will we be able to have a partner join us at the event? Would you watch us to review? Yeah, of course you can have a partner do that. Again, this is not something we've really looked at, but you can have a partner at your event. You can, this is your online platform for you to be able to do something there. We are going to be doing a technique. We're going to try and do, obviously doing partner work from our end will leave out some of the people that can do partner work. So again, as I'm saying, we're looking at the shaping of this event right now. We've kind of got an idea, rough idea of the platform and what we're going to do, but then the minute details such as partner work, etc., we haven't really gotten to yet, because that's one of the details we'll have to flush out in the next couple of weeks. So that's about it. Thank you for joining me. I'm actually going to be doing more work today. I've got a bunch of work to do to finalize a few things. We're trying to catch up on all the stuff we've not been able to catch up on because we rush when we do events. If I'm doing 3 events a month, keeping the online platform going is a challenge, because it's the new website we've got to go with it, to make sure all that works, to make sure it's an easier experience for you to do checkout, for all different things, so that we can bring a whole level of bringing the sword experience up again now, and now bringing it to the 21st century, 2021, should we be like that? It'll be Sword Experience 2021, which will be a new experience. So thank you guys for joining me. Please share the Patreon stuff to other people, and we will have, as I said, a lot of things on our new platform that we're going to try and keep there. There'll be a new blog section. There'll be the Sword Experience podcasts will be on there probably as well, so you can access them from there. We're going to be trying to do that. So there's a lot of different things that we're looking at that, again, feedback is good for us, but thank you for joining me today, and I hope you have a fabulous Thanksgiving, because that's coming right up. If you do eat too much, remember to do your exercises and your stretching as well. Okay, so from me, I'll see you soon. Those of you, I'll see you online at the Sword Experience training sequences. I'll see you then. I look forward to seeing your challenges next week. And from me, I'll just go and have another cup of coffee here, like just laying out. This is a virtual event. This is a virtual cup of coffee. What can I tell you? Ready?